6 o'clock, the meeting is now called to order. Esteban, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Here.
Cesar Nevares.
Here.
Ralph Duran.
Here.
Mayor Elia Garcia.
Here.
Victor Perez.
Here.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos is absent.
Item number 4, public comment.
We have two speakers. Miriam Cruz is our first speaker. Ms. Cruz, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Navarro. I wanted to mention the speeding is still going on in Stockyard. God, I sound like a broken record. I should make a song, just play it for you guys. There's been less police activity that I've noticed on Stockyard. I haven't seen as much as maybe a couple of months ago when I had first come in, or when I had asked back then. I haven't seen a lot of police presence anymore, which has allowed for the speeding to escalate, not just continue, but escalate. Some of these trucks, man, they're going real fast. And I was just mentioning to Ms. Rodarte beforehand that some of these 18-wheelers that are passing by there, I mean, again, this is a neighborhood. It should be 25 miles an hour. Actually, there are speed limit signs that say 25 miles an hour. And these trucks pass by so fast, and there are some bumps in the road, that once they hit those bumps and the entire camion, goes up in the air and back down, my house trembles. I mean, I can feel it. I can't just hear it. I can hear it or feel it. And that's worrisome for the foundation, not only of our house, but of my neighbors, and again, of kids playing around in the area. So I hope we can act soon. And I also hope that we can put up those signs, the no more 18-wheeler signs along Stockyard. So hopefully that those trucks won't be passing by there anymore. And then, of course, some 18-wheelers are still parking in their yards. But that's another story. I'm more worried about kids getting run over, my dog getting run over, random people just getting run over, my house falling apart because they're going that fast. So what else would I want to say? Oh, I'm just going to continue to advocate for parks. Parks are important. Parks in every neighborhood are important. I don't think that a park should be so far away that it actually won't be walking distance, even though as much as we would like to say that it's walking distance from certain houses. I think we need to allow for open spaces and parks so that everyone in our community can actually have good access to parks. But that's it. That's all I have for today. Thank you.
Mayor, for the record, Ivan Colom Villalobos arrived to the meeting at 6:03. Fernie Salcido. Mr. Salcido, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Navarro. Good evening, everyone. Madam Mayor, Council, City Manager, Mr. Rodarte, and citizens of Socorro. I would like to request that you can suspend the rule for item number 20 when I get up to speak on that, if you would, please. To assist my cousin over here, I call her my cousin. We share the same last name in the family, the Cruz. However, there's no relation. That she's having some problems with the 18-wheelers and stuff. You also have an ordinance. I can't find it. I read it earlier today. We have a noise ordinance that cannot exceed 50 decibels between the hours of 8 and 10 p.m. and then of 55 decibels between the hours of 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. So that might be something that you can look at as well to help your case. Thank you so much, and I'll reserve my time for item number 20.
Mayor, those were all our speakers.
Ms. Elos? We haven't moved up anything. Item number 5, presentation by city manager regarding January's 2019 monthly report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to provide you the highlights for January 2019 for our departments. Our Municipal Courts Department collected $64,709. They received 324 citations from Socorro PD, 24 citations from the Department of Public Safety, and 21 ordinance violations. Our Human Resources Department celebrated January's birthdays and anniversaries on January 25th. Both Officer Aguilar and Officer Rojo were nominated and received Employee of the Month. There was no civil service meeting in the month of January. There was one separation from the Public Works Department, a part-time laborer. We had 3 new hires in January: Jesus Alvarado, code enforcer; Robert Bonilla, police officer; and Diana Rodriguez, part-time recreations coordinator. My throat, I'm sorry. There were lateral promotions. Eunice Marquez went to a full-time position at the recreations department, and we had Geraldine Salazar promote to code enforcer. Our Parks and Public Works Department for January fixed potholes on Old Hueco Tanks Road, Chris Forbes, Galeon, Moon Road. There was crosswalks that were repainted throughout the city, picked up 8 deceased animals. 4 guardrails were installed at Moon and Alameda, Bauman and Middle Drain, Place Road, and Anderson Road. Neighborhoods that were cleaned were Friedman Estates, Las Margaritas, Vinido Acres, Rosa Azul, Las Milpas, and Mesa Verde. They installed 3 stop signs on Bovey, Buford, and Kendrick, and they continued to maintain the mow and groom all city parks and ponding areas. Our police department received 2,280 calls of service in the month of January. They also completed a 6-month investigation with focus on a street gang called Sureños in the sale and distribution of heroin and methamphetamines, which resulted in a seizure of 47 grams of heroin, 3 grams of methamphetamine, and 4 grams of marijuana. Police officers continue to attend training to keep them in compliance with certifications. Our city clerk department for the month of January prepared agendas for meetings for January 3rd and January 17th. January 17th meeting was canceled, so she only prepared minutes for January 3rd meeting. Received 43 open records requests and responded to 38. Prepared a second publication for the Sparks Arroyo excavation. Our planning and zoning department collected $39,348, issued 268 permits, 44 registrations, 13 applications, and 90 letters were prepared. Our recreations department participated in the interview panel for the Socorro High School head football coach, attended the Texas Historical Commission training with 1 commissioner, met with Centro San Vicente to coordinate and prepare for the remote location at Rio Vista to provide services to the community. There was 2 senior movies, and they were preparing for the Valentine's Drive-In and visit from the National Trust of Historic Preservation. Our IT department assisted in the police dispatch phone system upgrade and troubleshooted all related IT issues within the city departments. Our grants department for January, reimbursement and administrative closeout of grants from the Texas Historical Commission, TECQ and Office of the Governor's Homeland Security Grants Division, submission of grant application to the Texas Historical Commission Texas Preservation Trust Fund for the Rio Vista Visitor Center project. That concludes our highlights. Do you all have any questions? Thank you.
Moving on to consent agenda, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Pérez,
Aye.
and Iván Colombia López.
Yes.
Item number 8, public hearing of an ordinance for the proposed amendment to the City of Socorro's master plan and rezoning of Lot 7, Leonor Estates Number 1, amending plat Block 6 from C1, light commercial, to R2, medium density residential, to be subdivided into residential lots. 6:10, public hearing is now open.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. If you don't mind, I would like to present this item before the public hearing. That way the public knows what we're talking about. This item is a rezoning request for Leonor Estates amending plat. This subdivision is located about 2,900 feet from Bauman Road. They're asking to change the zoning on a portion of the land from commercial to residential. They want to rezone 3.1 acres. As you can see on this plat, everything that you see in yellow is part of a plat that was already approved. The previous owner was trying to develop all this land. However, they had a change of plans and they sold the property. The new owner wants to develop the whole thing at once. But before they do that, they want to change this little area that you see in pink. That's about 3.1 acres. By doing that, as you can see, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended that you deny this request because of a concern of creating more traffic by changing it to residential. So we spoke to the applicant. They provided a trip generation report. And that report is saying that it's actually going to reduce the amount of traffic by changing it to residential. Staff is gonna stick with a recommendation of approving it because, as you can see on this report, if you change the zoning on this land by changing it to residential, you should expect to see at least 18 cars going in the morning, in and out, 13 in the afternoon. If you keep it as commercial, you're gonna see a total of 60 cars going in the morning, or in and out in the morning, and 212 in the afternoon. This is using a worst case scenario, assuming that they build a shopping center or something in that land. So with those numbers shown, you can see that it would actually benefit if you change it to residential instead of having it as commercial. Thank you.
Thank you.
Miriam Cruz. I'm not gonna stand up here and pretend that I'm an expert in traffic or an expert in engineering or an expert in anything that I'm not an expert in. But 18 cars in the morning doesn't make sense to me. At a minimum, in our in the U.S., but in the minimum here in El Paso, there's at a minimum 3 cars per house. That's mom, dad, child. Usually there's about 4 or 5 cars per house because there's usually more than one child, and each child gets their own car. Now, I'm not gung-ho about it being commercial. I'm more worried about that being residential, being right up front to North Loop. I think it actually makes sense that it should be commercial. The traffic allows it to be, the inflow of traffic, sort of this commercial area protects the residential. I mean, that's the way I see it. But you know, I mean, I don't have a stake in this other than that I want the city to be the best it can be, and traffic to be at a minimum. And I don't I mean, I don't know, I could have written a chart like that, and wrote different numbers. I'm not dismissing it, I don't know where they got those numbers from. And it just doesn't make sense to me. Again, at a minimum, there would be average 4 cars per house. There's how many lots? 20? 9? That's it? Yeah. 4 times 9, you know. But anyway, that's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Ms. Villalobos?
Mr. Joe, can you put the map up again, sir, please? So, what we're talking about is the yellow part only.
Only the pink area is the one that they're asking the zoning change. Everything else is already R2.
Okay,
So they're only asking for a zoning change on the pink area.
so we're not gonna have commercial at all?
No, ma'am. Everything would be residential.
Well, that's a bummer, because it would have been nice to have commercial there. And they're only adding 9 lots, is that what you said?
Yes, ma'am, on this area, yes. And those are the same numbers that they used on the report. They're only gonna add 9 lots in the 3.1 acres.
And they're still going to allow shoulder on the side?
Yes, ma'am, of course. The shoulder is gonna stay as shown right here on this line. This right-of-way is already dedicated for future expansion of the North Loop project.
And they're putting a rock wall for
Yes, ma'am.
protection?
Yes.
Alrighty, thank you, sir.
Mr. Perez?
Joe, would you just do me a favor of pointing out where Bowman is? I'm sorry.
Bauman is right here. This is the fire department.
Okay.
And then right in front, across the street from this project, there's the Ferro Gas. Used to be called Flores Gas.
Right, right.
And then there's a couple of little curves.
Yeah.
This is where,
Okay, thank you.
6:17, public comment is now closed. Item number 9, second reading and adoption of an ordinance for the proposed amendment to the City of Socorro's master plan and rezoning of Lot 7, Leonor Estates Number 1, amending plat Block 6 from C1, light commercial to R2, medium density residential to be subdivided into residential lots.
Make a motion to approve.
Mayor,
Second.
Mr.
we have 4 speakers for this item.
Okay.
Miriam Cruz.
I'm sorry. Yes, I'd just like to make mention that I tend to agree with Ms. Cruz on this because those numbers, they just don't, they don't jive. If you'll notice, this portion right here, we have a PI. It's a point of intersection. Right here is another point of intersection by the lateral. And I don't see where this development is gonna have an egress. Well, they're gonna have it right here. So you're gonna have all these at one point coming out at the same time. As well, all these children are gonna be bused to school, okay? The infrastructure that we currently have on this portion of North Loop, Farm Road 76, is not adequate to handle this type of population. We have an ordinance in the 76 Amendment 1A, Section 211, where all council took an oath. The Municipal Planning and the Zoning Commission, with a comprehensive plan, excuse me, I'm having a hard time, and designate such provisions as to lessen the congestion in streets, to secure safety from fire and other dangers, to promote a healthy and general welfare, to provide adequate light, air.
Mr. Salcido, your time is up.
Thank you so much. It's
Miriam
unfortunate.
Cruz.
There's also a big development that y'all approved here. There's this development here. So 9 doesn't sound like a lot, but when you add it to this and all of this and whatever else has been approved along North Loop, it's gonna make a difference. 9 doesn't sound like a lot, but collectively it's gonna make a huge difference. So again, I mean, there's a reason why the Planning and Zoning Commission voted to oppose it, and that was exactly what Mr. Terraza said, was traffic, congestion, safety. So I hope that you guys take that into consideration, because it really makes a difference. It's not just 9 units, it's 9 times however many kids each homeowner is gonna bring in, plus whatever parents, plus grandpa, plus grandma, plus whoever and everyone who's gonna have a car. Thank you.
Jorge Grajeda.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. I'm Jorge Grajeda with CA Group. I'm with the applicant, representing the applicant, Bowling Brothers Development. I would just like to add, I guess, I know everybody sees a table here with numbers, but all the computations are based off of the latest IT manual, which is the Institute of Transportation Engineers. So by code, we have to follow those studies. There's studies that are done. It's a federally funded agency, based of engineers and everything. So it's not just numbers that we come up with or a percent that I think how many people are going to own a cars, because it's based on a peak hour traffic and actual guidance studies that we need to go by. So, and then second of all, so I know everybody, the residents' concern is the congestion. So by allowing us to do the 9 residential lots, and based on the computations that we've done, we're significantly reducing the congestion on North Loop and the trips that would eventually be getting into a commercial site by about 200 vehicle trips per peak hour. So I know the congestion was be significantly reduced by far by allowing us to do a residential option versus a commercial shopping center. And then as far as the safety, just so you know, our client is looking at developing the entire parcel as it was noted. But we're also going to be coming in with a street right here coming in, so there'll actually be 2
Mr.
points of
Grajeda, your
access
time is up.
to North Loop instead of 1 point of access. Thank you.
Randy Bowling.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I apologize for being late. There was a lot of traffic. Just to continue on with what Jorge was saying, we believe the 9 residential lots is far less intrusive. Going from C1 to R2 is a down zone, and currently right now, the way it's platted with the commercial, there'll be three approaches from North Loop. By going with the 9 lots, there'll only be 2 approaches. There'll be an approach off TxDOT right-of-way into the subdivision on the far end and the other end of the pink shaded area there. So we believe it drastically reduces traffic. We believe the city of Socorro will generate more tax dollars with the houses than it would like commercial, and it's a known commodity. You know what you're gonna get. Those are some of our biggest lots in the subdivision. That's our request tonight, and I'm also here to answer any questions if the council may have any.
Mr. Rodriguez?
I was gonna ask initially, where do you get the data from? Because as you know, Mayor, when we're at DMPO, we get figures, we understand what all the numbers, the state tells you how to get the numbers. You can't just come here and make a fake chart and plug in your numbers. I mean, these are things that the government tells you what you need to do in order to get those numbers. One of the things that I will address to everybody's concern is that, you can't force a property owner to do whatever he wants to do with his property, period. Okay? Nobody's gonna tell me what to do with my property, yet alone I won't do that to somebody else. If they have a change of heart, I mean, they understand congestion. I get it, and I understand as well. You know, from what I understood, and so people can understand, when this development was presented to us 2.5 years, maybe 3, we made sure to get right away to extend North Loop, to be widened, in other words, okay? We already understand that. We see the vision, because TxDOT right now is currently trying to develop it from where Peter Piper is all the way to Fabens, okay? That's in the works right now. So we understand, we know, and if we can eliminate 200 plus more vehicles of traffic, that's great for now, but we understand the greater vision. We can't, I know it's very difficult for us to tell you every single detail or every single meeting. I wish we could. We don't have enough time for it, but one of the things is that we are already addressing it, you know, with projects that are coming up, because we understand that we need right away, just like this development, you know, the other developments as well. When they come in, we're always asking for right away so that we can widen the streets. This is something that and that's our goal, because we understand these FM streets can't handle the capacity of the growth that Socorro is seeing. But it's our job to make sure that we're working for the future and the expansion of our streets as well. So just rest assured that we understand our concerns, because that's something that we are always addressing, is how are we going to expand and widen our streets? This is not just an artery, there's a bunch that need to be widened, and that's what we're trying to make you guys comfortable to know that we are working in the city's best interest.
Mr. Perez?
Just a point of clarification. At this point, it's just it's the issue of changing the zoning. The developer still has the obligation, responsibility, to submit plans for ingress and egress and all the other safety issues that come up with development. And so at this point, I think that it may be a little premature to start saying that it's not going to function, because we're not there yet. In terms of numbers, unfortunately with data, you can manipulate data one way or another. And so at this point, and if you look at it, not logically, but just in terms of numbers, 9 times 5 is 45, whereas you have about over 200, maybe plus cars coming in a commercial area. Those 45 cars aren't always on the road, because you don't have family members leaving all at once. And so I think that in terms of the reasonableness, I think it's more reasonable to have a residential area versus a commercial area. That's just my opinion. And I'm still going to, and of course, in terms of safety and traffic flow, the plan has to be acceptable to council, and we're not and we've been I like to think that we've been strict with those issues as they've come up. So I would lean towards having a residential area versus a commercial area. Thank you.
Ms. Villalobos?
I just want to say about the data information. Nobody knows the data better than the people that actually live there. And so I understand data can be manipulated or whatnot, and I understand that. I agree. I'm kind of in the middle right now, because I know that I know North Loop is very congested. That's the area I travel every single day. Every single day. And I'm not looking forward to all these homes, even being a realtor. I'm not looking forward because of the street. So I'm hoping that together as council and maybe even as developers, we urge TxDOT to widen the street. I don't know, once they start seeing all this development, maybe, you know, exactly. Once we see, that's my hope, that once they see all this development happening, they start noticing that that street needs to be widened. Not 5 years from now, but now. And so I just want everybody to understand that nobody knows those streets better than the people that live there. And this is why Mr. Salcido and Ms. Cruz come up here and tell you yes, it's nine new lots, but the congestion is already there. And it hasn't started. Thank you.
Mr. Perez?
And you're right. Unfortunately, the state will always operate that way. It's until you've got the population that they decide to expand. And they've been like that. Look at how long it took for North Loop to be widened from Americas to even to Peter Piper. And so I think that this is a mixed blessing, because unfortunately, you need the population to get the expansion. And so I don't know. There's no easy remedy. There's no easy answer. And by the same token, we can't be so harsh. Not the word isn't harsh, but the idea of trying to tell people that they can develop. I think those are the growing pains that we're going through, and we feel it in every area. So I think that's just the nature of the beast at this point.
Do we have a motion?
We do.
Yeah, there's a motion.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran.
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colombia Lopez.
Yes.
Item number 10, discussion and action to amend Resolution 561 in support of the Tierra del Sol Housing Corporation's application to the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs for low-income housing tax credits for Hacienda Santa Barbara Apartments in Socorro, Texas, to have Tierra del Sol Housing Corporation changed to their development affiliate Housing Economic Rural Opportunity, Inc.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Alejandra Valadez, City Grants Coordinator. This is just an amendment to the previously approved resolution to change the name from Tierra del Sol Housing Corporation to the Hero Corporation. They are also a nonprofit organization that has done a bunch of low-income developments. And this will be for the new development on 3 Missions Drive.
Mr. Perez?
This won't affect anything in terms of the standard for the building, the management style, or the management standards for this organization?
No, they have to apply the same way as any other development has to apply. They have to come in through our Planning and Zoning Department and get all of the permits as well.
So then Hero is also a development corporation?
I'm sorry?
Hero is also a development corporation then?
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
Mayor, we have a speaker, Miriam Cruz. Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
Ivan Colombia Lopez.
Yes.
Item number 11, discussion and action to approve the proposed community cleanup locations and support activities for the first of 2 Lower Valley Water District City of Socorro community cleanup events funded through the Rio Grande Council of Governments Municipal Solid Waste Grant and scheduled for Saturday, March 23, 2019.
Motion to approve?
Second.
So we are very fortunate that this year we have been able to partner with the Lower Valley Water District through the funding from the Rio Grande Council of Governments Municipal Solid Waste Grant. We will be able to conduct 2 community cleanups this year. The first one is scheduled for March 23rd, and the second one is scheduled for June 8th. We want to inform the council of the proposed locations and also what our support activities are for this grant. If you look at your justification for the proposed cleanup locations, the locations were proposed by the Lower Valley Water District, and they were discussed in conjunction with them in our Public Works Department. They were chosen based on the fact that the community needs the assistance to clean up residential debris or illegal dumping. And second of all, the communities were chosen because they were not previously targeted through other cleanup events in the past. So these communities have not received assistance. The 3 communities are Grijalva Gardens subdivision, Delip subdivision, and Gerdiv, I hope I said it right, subdivision. And the way that this program will work is that if you all approve, all of the residents in this subdivision will receive the flyer that is attached in the backup. The flyer informs them of which items they can place in front of their houses. The Lower Valley Water District will come by on Saturday, March 23rd, and pick up all of the items that are placed in front. I have also learned in the past couple of days that the Lower Valley Water District is also going to place 3 containers at our old Waco Tanks facility to collect tires as well. And they will be placed there on March 20th, 21, and 22, leading up to the 23rd cleanup event. Yes, sir.
20, 21?
20, 21, 22, and then they'll come and pick up everything on the 23rd. So residents will be able to drop off their tires there throughout the week, and then on Saturday, the Lower Valley Water District will pick up their containers.
Ms. Villalobos?
I know you said Old Waco Tanks, what's the other cross street?
That's our Public Works facility,
Oh,
our Parks and Public
I'm
Works
sorry, I'm
facility.
thinking on this.
Yes.
Alrighty, got it.
Aye. Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Item number 12, discussion and action on approval of Resolution 563, authorizing the City of Socorro to submit a grant application to the Office of the Governor's Homeland Security Division 2019 State Homeland Security Program, LDTPA Projects Grant for the procurement of 10 P25 police radios to increase the Socorro Police Department's capacity to avoid, prevent, or stop a threatened or actual act of terrorism. There is no match requirement for this grant.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So we are submitting this grant application on behalf of the Socorro Police Department. We will be requesting $42,134.05 for 10 police radios. The radios are estimated to cost between $4,000 and $5,000 each. And this is because they are P25 compliant, which is a standard of design and manufactured that law enforcement agencies use. That's why they're so expensive. Mhm.
Wow.
There is no match requirement for this grant.
Excellent.
I think this came after, I'm sorry, after 9/11 where the communications just shut down, and so they had to upgrade all the communication systems.
Yes, and all of our law enforcement agencies are struggling to get these P25 radios because it allows them to communicate with each other much more efficiently in a catastrophic event, but they are very expensive.
Aye. Yes. Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Item number 13, discussion and action on approval of Resolution 564, authorizing the City of Socorro to submit a grant application to the Office of the Governor's Homeland Security Division 2019 State Homeland Security Program Regular Projects Grant for the procurement of 1 mobile backup generator to power its Emergency Operations Center in the event of a terroristic attack. There is no match requirement for this grant.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So again, this grant is on behalf of our Socorro Police Department. As you know, last year we did receive a grant to fund 1 backup generator. However, none of our emergency operations centers have backup generators, and that includes Chayo, Rio Vista, and our police Rio Vista substation. And so we're trying to make sure that we are up to par in terms of our power capabilities in the event of a power outage.
Ms. Villalobos?
Is it 1 per police station that they can get, or is it the size of the police station? Or can we come back at a later time and receive more backups at no match?
Yes, this grant opportunity is available on every year, so we can apply for another generator next year. And the amount of funding that is available depends on how many applications come in. And the cost of the backup generator depends on the power that you're trying to get out of it. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, ma'am.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Item number 14, discussion and action on approval of Resolution 565, authorizing the City of Socorro to submit a grant application to the Office of the Governor's Criminal Justice Division Violence Against Women Justice and Training Program to provide training for Socorro's law enforcement officers on effective identification and response to violent crimes against women. The city's match commitment is $2,842 from the police department's approved budget.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
So again, this is to provide training for our police officers on identification and response to violent crimes against women, which includes the crimes of sexual assault, domestic violence, dating violence, and stalking. As you know, our population is growing, and the techniques for interviewing victims, the techniques for identifying these crimes, the techniques for preventing these crimes are updated every year, and it's important that we keep our officers updated on the best practices.
Ms. De La Voz?
I know this is gonna sound silly, but is it just for women? Because I know that I've seen some men being abused as well. Is it just for women?
Absolutely not. No, the type of training is very broad. It's under the Violence Against Women Act, but the Violence Against Women Act also extended protections for other vulnerable populations such as children and elderly populations as well.
Excellent.
So it's not just for women.
Great, thank you.
But no man, just to add to your.
No, is he right?
No, yeah.
No, I'm
anybody.
just playing. I'm just playing. Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Item number 15, discussion and action on approval of Resolution 566, authorizing the City of Socorro to submit a grant application to the Office of the Governor's Criminal Justice Division Fiscal Year 2020 Criminal Justice Program to secure one community resources officer for the Socorro Police Department to implement community policing initiatives, safety and community events, and educational training activities at public schools, businesses, and local community and faith-based organizations. There is no match requirement for this grant.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So we will be requesting one community resources officers for the Socorro Police Department. We are requesting $55,059.26, and that includes salary and fringe. The project is for 12 months, but we have the ability of requesting that the project period be extended for 24 months after that. The community resources officer, some of the responsibilities would be to build strategic partnerships with various border community stakeholders. They would act as the CRO, community resources officers, would act as a liaison between the public and community partners. They would act as a primary liaison between the Socorro Police Department and schools. They would meet with our local residents to see if there's any crime perhaps that goes unreported that we can address as a community-oriented approach. They would also meet with business owners to troubleshoot potential crime issues and around commercial properties. They would also help coordinate special events with Mr. Reta, such as National Night Out, Police Fire Service Day, back to school events, and basically act as a community liaison to improve.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Was there any speakers first? No. No? Okay. My question is, if we go ahead and do this, after the year is over and we get an extension of 24 months, which is another additional two years, when it's all said and done, this person will be an employee of the city? Or is it just a temporary?
Well, it's only funding available, and that's something that me and Jim were discussing, because we need to look into the civil service act.
That was
or,
gonna be my next question.
during budget time, we can budget for an employee and keep the position vacant until that grant is over to fill that position. Because the city is growing with all this new development, we're gonna have to add force. So that could be implemented within our budget time. So when the 24 hours are there, we already have a position for that particular person.
Mr. Perez?
Well, I guess my question was answered. We're going to have someone come aboard, the position is gonna be created. But I don't see why that would affect civil service all that much, because when you advertise contingent upon available funding. And while they're employed with the city, yes, they are subject to the protection of civil service, but they understand isn't there the understanding is that funding is finite, and that the position may not continue.
Well, that's kind of the question I posed, is that when you do the hiring, can we make that impose, like, you know that if there's no funding available, your position might be
Yeah.
eliminated?
You know that going in, so I don't see why that would be such a big factor to consider.
Yeah, I don't think you can hire, I don't think you can do that. Once you hire an employee, they're subject to the regular civil service rules and as they apply to everybody else.
Yes, Jim. Oh, sorry.
Ms. Villalobos is next.
Well, I think you guys all asked the question that I needed. I was gonna ask, was it gonna be one of ours? Is it a police officer? What if he leaves, takes all that information with them, or all that training with them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yeah, because if it's contingent, if this position is contingent on the grant, then, you know, it's like when I hire somebody that I only need them for a month, Jim. It's like when I hire somebody for a month, you know, they know that they're on contract until they're done with the job that I need.
Yeah,
So,
there's probably a way to do it. It depends on the terms of the grant and then exactly how they fit into our civil service structure. You can't simply, how do I say this? You can't hire someone as a regular line police officer and tell them up front, look, this is only a temp position. The way our civil service rules read right now, that animal doesn't exist. That's an empty set. But you could probably do something else, the equivalent of it. And the nice thing is, it's 2 years down the road, so you give your administration has plenty of time to plan for it.
well, potentially 1 year with a potential of extension of 2.
But
Mr. Perez?
would it be, and I understand what you're saying, but it would be a full-time funded position, and it wouldn't be a temp. It's a full-time funded position contingent upon funding. And so, again, this is just my limited experience with it, is that person would receive the protections and benefits of civil service in the duration of his or her employment and duration of funding.
Right, and typically the availability of funding is an overriding concern, and maybe my recommendation would be to let your administration study that. I think the grant application can be approved now, but let your administration study that. It's just an app.
Okay.
One of the options that occurs to me is if we may not have a community resource officer in our matrix of positions under civil service, and so one of the options is, well, we'll create a position under civil service. That has to go to the Civil Service Commission, it has to come back to you, and then you can make that one position of contingent upon available funding, and if there's not available funding in a particular year, there's nobody to fill that position.
Some in the ordinance.
Ms. Villalobos?
Do you know if this is something that you can go back every year, or is there a cap of
The-
10 years, 2 years, 5 years?
24 months, that's it. But there are other funding sources that we can look for once we get closer to that 24-month extension. I also would like to add that grant-funded positions are very common in local government, and they are advertised as such when they are posted. Additionally, I just want to clarify that the job description and all the details would have to be worked out with our HR department and, of course, legal and our administration.
But what I'm saying, based on availability, right? There's no cap. They can't come back and say, well, in 2020, you received 25,000 or 55,000, and you have to wait an additional 3 years before we can reconsider.
So the way this grant works is by project. So they will only fund a specific project for a maximum of 24 months. That's it. So if the following year after that we have a different project, we can still apply for that.
Okay,
But for this project, just for the
There's
same
no-
project, 24 months.
there is, okay, thank you.
Mr. Perez?
Well, in 2 years, we should be able to try and prepare for either keeping that person on board full-time and see what the budget looks like at that point.
Well,
Correct.
I'm sorry,
Ms. Villalobos?
but if we keep them full-time, if we decide to make them an employee, does this person qualify for the grants?
At that point, if it's a full-time employee, I don't think so. It would have to remain a grant-funded position if you're looking to fund the position through a grant.
Because you said it only lasts for 24 months.
Yeah, that's
So
it, through this grant,
So
through this
the
grant.
duration, we know that it's only gonna last 24 months.
Yes, through this grant.
So surpassing the 24 months, at that point, we can consider as a
We
city-
either have another grant or we,
But
mhm.
just to clarify, it's a year.
Mr. Rodriguez?
It's a year with an extension of 24 months.
But yes, but that's what I'm saying. There is a limit of 24 months, so
No, no,
beyond,
no. The limit is 1 year. That's it. We can get an extension of 24 months. Hold on. What if we are not able to get the extension? So if we have to look at it as 1 year right now so far. But we can apply for an extension of 2 years.
but we can still plan for that 1 year when budget time rolls around.
Yes.
Either way.
And
Ms. Villalobos?
And again, we cannot make them a regular full-time employee in order to receive the funds for that position.
No, we can, right, because he's no longer gonna be through the grant.
Okay,
If we wanted
no,
to.
I'm saying for the grant. If we keep him on a grant, he or she, I'm sorry, if this person is kept on a grant basis, we cannot make them a full-time employee unless we decide to make them a full-time employee, then,
Grant goes away.
there's no reason for this grant unless we hire a second person, right?
But I think there's a misconception. The person can be full-time. They will be full-time. It's just that their funding source is limited. So they still will be full-time, but their funding will end at some point. So at that point, when the funding ends, then you decide, do we keep them, we can make them a permanent employee, a permanent full-time employee. Means you can have a permanent part-time employee. And so that means that as a city, we take up, we eat the
Right.
the funding.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. We're saying the same thing.
Okay.
Yes, but there will be, the way the person will be paid will not be through the funding.
Right.
It will be through, as an employee for the city.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Alrighty.
Aye.
Yes.
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 Item number 16, discussion and action on approval of Resolution 567, authorizing the City of Socorro to submit a grant application to the Office of the Governor's Criminal Justice Division General Victim Assistance Program for the Socorro Police Department to secure one crime victims advocate to provide advocacy services for Socorro residents who have been victims of crime. The city's match contribution is $7,618.60 from the general fund.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
So again, this is for hiring one crime victims advocate to work with our Socorro Police Department. Our match is $7,618.69. We are requesting $30,474.75. This grant does require a 20% match. The crime victims advocate would be in charge of interviewing victims of various crime that are residents here in Socorro. They would be able to provide referrals and educate victims about the criminal justice process, what their rights are as victim. They would also initiate and complete crime victims compensation applications. They would sit down with the victim and create a safety plan. They can help the victim apply for protective orders. They can be able to assist victims with, general tasks after they are victims of a crime. They can also act as a liaison for their department personnel, for criminal justice agencies, for public and private interstate organizations, for medical facilities, mental health facilities. and generally provide research and advocacy for victims of crime in the city of Socorro. At this time, victims are referred to the county's Victim Assistance Program, and that program is a really good program. They're very hardworking, but they're also overextended and overworked, and we don't really have somebody here in Socorro that can provide them these types of advocacy services. And again, this is a 12-month project period with the possibility of extending it the 24 months. So it would be the same situation as the other grant.
Aye. Yes. Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Item number 17, discussion and action to authorize the City of Socorro to contract Kemp Smith LLC for the formation of a 501c3 public foundation to support and further the City of Socorro's mission and to benefit of the residents of the City of Socorro, Texas.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So this, as you all remember, on December 6th, the City Council approved a motion to direct City Attorney to assess the feasibility of establishing an arm's length nonprofit organization to support the mission of the city in terms of securing funding from private organizations, from citizens, from donors. We met with Kemp Smith LLC, who has a lot of experience in helping organizations and cities support nonprofit organizations that can help them further their missions. In your backup, you are provided with a letter from Kemp Smith explaining their rates and fees, and you also have a general process and timeline for how long it might take to form the 501c3, what are the different steps, and how our Kemp Smith is going to help us in that. So after we retain legal counsel, we'll be able to get some advice on selecting our board members. We'll also get assistance on filing our certificate of formation with the Secretary of State as a Texas nonprofit. We'll also be able to finalize our organization's bylaws. There is a planned first board meeting in which the board members are going to officially elect the members, adopt the organization's bylaws, and approve the filing of Form 1023 with the IRS. Once that form is filed with the IRS, if it is approved, we will finally get our IRS determination letter that states that our organization is a 501c3 and we can apply to all of the grants that require you to be a 501c3.
Mr. Perez?
I think it's a great idea, but if we're consulting with Kemp Smith, is that something that we need to go out for bid, or?
So it's under
It's
professional
under
services,
the-
and it meets our procurement process.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
And we're not going over, the cost is not, it can be, they said it was gonna be a little bit more than 5,000, but not over $10,000. It's within that range depending on the filing of the paperwork.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mayor, I would recommend, if council is inclined to approve this, I would recommend that part of the motion be to authorize the city manager to execute that engagement letter.
Okay, so at this time, I'd like to amend my motion to also authorize the city manager to execute any agreements,
The engagement letter.
engagement letter.
Second.
We do have a speaker.
I tell you, Mr. Perez, we have antennas when we communicate. That was going to be my question. I still have a question, though. How did Kemp Smith get chosen? Why them? Why not ask a few and see, kind of, maybe not necessarily go out for bid, but see what ranges are out there? And if we did do that, great. If we didn't, why not? And just in general, when I ask these questions, I don't think anyone's hiding the ball. I just think it's information that the public deserves, including the numbers. I don't, I wasn't accusing them of making them up. I just wanted to know how they got those numbers, right? I mean, and I don't think it takes that long to explain what he explained, which was a few seconds. But anyway, going back to this, I just want to know how they got chosen, why they got chosen, if they were recommended, by who they were recommended by, just general information as to why not even just ask 3, 5 firms for what range they would charge for this type of work, to make sure that we're, you know, getting a good deal. That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes, ma'am, I'm happy to respond. The answer is, we chose them, more or less, I mean, I'm not the one doing the choosing. I'm the one who located them. The council told me to go investigate. I did. You know, it's kind of an ad hoc process. I can't tell you it's a methodical process. I didn't canvass the state. Carl Ryan, I asked a bunch of lawyers I knew, Carl Ryan, including the lawyer who used to be the general counsel for the EPISD for 26 years. The EPISD has one of the oldest and largest charitable foundations of the public entities here in El Paso. They call them Charitable Support Foundation. EPISD was one of the first ones to create it, and it's one of the largest, and it's been around the longest. And the guy who created that was Carl Ryan. And since then, people go back to him again and again and again and again. I think he told us he's created over 60 of these in and around mostly El Paso, but largely West Texas. And they're all charitable support foundations. They're schools districts. I think one was the Housing Authority, one the El Paso del Norte Health Foundation. I mean, it's like that. And I mean, you say, could we have found others? Yeah, you could have found others to do it. I could have done it. And I'd spend a bunch of money and time trying to learn this area of the law, which I don't think is efficient for the city. The best thing in my view was to find the guy who's done it 60 times. He knows the law, he does it efficiently, he's got all the documents at hand, and let him do it. So, and I'm happy to answer the council's other questions.
Thank you, Jim.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Before I say something, before I say my vote, you know, we need to understand that sometimes when we say stuff, like we say, we didn't try to insinuate, but when we do insinuate that we don't believe the numbers, you know, you're insinuating. Okay? It doesn't take a genius to know that.
Mr.
Okay.
Rodriguez, that's not
I know.
related to the item.
But it goes back to the same thing. We do our homework. We have competent staff that does their work. And I've always will, with the exception of twice, since 2003, when with our staff. I think they're hard workers. You know, they know what they're doing. And, you know, we should stop saying, you know, stuff like that. That's it. Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Before I vote, I'm going to say that I'm glad that our constituents are on their toes and asking us the questions. That's why they're here. And I believe that I would have loved to have known how they were chosen, not because I don't believe in our staff, but it's great to know the information. Knowledge is power. And I vote yes.
Item number 18, discussion on action to award bid 19-01 for building inspection to Michelle's Ventures Incorporated, doing business as Vision Consultants Incorporated, and authorize city manager or her designee to negotiate a fee as outlined in the request for qualifications.
Motion to approve for discussion.
Second.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. Michael Lina, the city planner. So as it's been discussed, and there's a lot of observation that we have a lot of growth in the area. So part of the execution here that's coming before you is to allow us to negotiate a fee for services that would render the city to fill in capacity for staff. So currently right now we have a building official that has full authority to inspect buildings and other mechanical, electrical, plumbing areas in the commercial and the residential code. We also have building inspectors as well. However, due to the large amount of development that's arising, we just are beyond capacity. And so one of the things that we did is that we issued a RFQ, and there's 11 points for that. And so what is before you is having an approval for the city manager or the designee to negotiate a fee based on inspection that would be on a weekly basis and under a work authorization.
Mr. Perez?
Mr. Medina, what was where did you all get this rubric?
I'm
Is
sorry?
this the rubric for the qualifications?
So
Is
what-
that standard or?
Yes, sir. So we did a state of practice search, and we looked at other municipalities, and we made this matrix based on that experience.
So the scoring criteria consists of what's on the RFQ, what we require. So we let, who's ever bidding, let them know this is what we're gonna score you on. So then when they receive the information, we score based on the information that we're receiving on the criteria that was placed
Right.
in the RFQ.
Thank you.
Mayor, we have a speaker, Marian Cruz. Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Pérez,
Aye.
and Iván Colombia López.
Yes. Item number 19, discussion and action to hire a legislative advocacy firm to provide the city a valued approach to representation during the 2019 legislative session and authorize city manager or her designee to finalize contract.
I'll motion to approve for discussion. Not necessarily that I need to hear this out.
Yes.
Second.
Okay, so a couple of weeks ago, we were approached by a group called Forma, and it's more of a lobbying type of, what it is that they do. They brought a couple of points where the city of Socorro doesn't get represented in the legislation session. There's things that we see as a need, like the bill that Mary Gonzalez presented a couple of years ago regarding stormwater. Well, if you really look at that bill, that doesn't cover the city of Socorro at all. You have to meet certain thresholds that even if the whole city would flood, we would probably never meet. So it's an unrealistic goal. So what these advocacy groups do, they go out there and they provide language for these bills in order for us to either receive funding or, depending on the needs of the city. They go out and kind of represent the city. So when they approached us, my first thing is, well, I don't know how council feels about this. I can't make a decision saying yes. I think I need to get direction from you all. And we're already in legislation right now. So they have till March to present any new bills. So what they were asking is not to present no new bills, but be able to add some verbiage to things that already exist out there and, and present and get in front of these state representatives. And I mean, they go out to Washington and get in front of people and just kind of advocate.
I know that Forma is a little controversial
Yes.
in terms of what they do. That's one. Two, I think it's a double-edged sword because the fact that they represent this area is good, but the fact that they represent this area is also not that great because it all depends if they're going to be paid, right? So if somebody's pocketbook is a little bit bigger than another's,
They're gonna be fine.
their advocacy is going to be stronger for that organization. And so I hear the rationale. I would like to see if you all would look at other.
Well, definitely, and that's kind of what we were trying, but I wanted to get a feel of what would councils, because El Paso's just doing an RFQ, they have an RFQ for lobbying groups. And I know that the city of Socorro used to do it in the past, but since I've been here, they haven't been done.
Better continue.
So, when we met, I mean, they brought a couple, and Carlos Sisa, the former governor of the Tiguas, is on board. So when he came in and said, this is everything that they've done, it kind of, I'm like, a light bulb went out. Like, I have to go to council and see if this is something that we, right? And what I'm saying is that we're still in legislation right now. We have till June to get into, so maybe not a procurement process, but give a threshold, and we'll go out and look for 3 different firms and just follow that, if that's something that you all wish. If not, we can wait 2 years and prepare.
Because not every piece of legislation that comes up will affect Socorro.
Correct.
And because and so that's why I think that we need to just, I agree that we should have something in place because we are growing and we're going through those growing pains. But I think that we need to, step back a little bit and
Really
look at,
think it through,
uh-huh.
yes. And that's pretty much what because I wanted to say, well, no, we're already too into, but I don't have that authority. So I said, let me take it to council and see what it is that they,
Mr. Rodriguez?
Okay, we did have a lobbyist in 2003, 13. It was from Jim Campbell. And I know that because we did away with him, because when we came in, surrounding the circumstances at the time of council before us coming in 2013, well, myself, we thought it wasn't necessary. But if we go back 2 years, there has been bills presented that has harmed not just our city, but everybody in the state of Texas. For example, using, oh my God, what I've been advocating for the past 4 months, Jim, that we need to get more land. What's it called?
Annexation.
Annexation. My God, I'm going blank. And that's, and that's what I'm trying to say is that, you know, I get it and I understand. I read the backup. I think that there is a need now because there are bills that are going to harm us. Like this year, the bill that's being presented is instead of us going to 8.5%, they're gonna cut us down to 2.5. If that goes through, then we will not, if we want more than 3 cents, or, you know, on our tax roll, that ain't gonna happen. Our max is 2.5. So those are things that we need lobbyists for, and then we can work at it and see what else we need for our future. But right now, we do need to kill that bill because that's going to harm us. You know, there's things that are there that we are not aware. For example, right now, this whole week, El Paso is in Austin. El Paso. Everybody there.
The legislative.
Because yes, we don't do that. We don't do that. We should, but we don't. We don't go to DC to talk to our representatives, to go look at our grants. We don't do that. We should go to Austin. We should go to Houston. We don't do that. And that's why we don't have a lot of the opportunities, a lot of grants, and a lot of money for our projects that we do need. That's why we do need a lobbyist, because if we can't do it, at least have somebody to represent us.
Mr. Perez?
I'm sure you.
No, go ahead.
But like I said, I agree with you. I just think that we need to be very careful about the lobbyists.
Oh, no.
that we select.
We should follow a procurement
Yeah,
process.
because-
It's in the story. I mean, that's what we have to do. I'm not advocating. It's like Jim Campbell as well. You know, I get periodically, you know, a call from the gentleman saying, hey, you know, is Socorro ready? You know, I think we're ready, but I mean, I'm not gonna say, yeah, we're gonna hop back on board. You know, I saw that, you know, Mr. Olarte brought it up. I was like, hey, you know what? We might give the gentleman back there another shot, but we have to follow a procurement.
Yeah, I sound like a broken record, but yeah, those growing pains that we're going through.
Yeah, and unfortunately, with the annexation, it harmed us. Now, potentially with our taxes, it's gonna harm us even more if it goes through.
Ms. Villalobos?
I just want to say TML really, really strongly urges us to be out there or be represented. I think we're very close to the deadline of many other válgame, ya estoy
Bills?
como tú. And so, are you aware of any projects that you would say, you know what, we're running out of time, we really need to hire this company? I really feel strongly about X, Y, and Z because we're running out, I know we're running out of time.
So
And I
for
don't
me,
wanna wait
my
2 years.
priorities would be stormwater,
Mhm,
infrastructure,
mhm.
and the annexation, right?
Right.
Because the laws have changed, and like I said, it's not introducing a bill, it's how words can be added to something that already exists.
Mhm.
And you have these lobbyists that already have, I don't wanna, relationships with other state representatives and are able to, I mean, they know exactly what verbiage needs to be there in order for you to qualify
Right.
for that.
And I know that, and I hear you about this company, you know, having some kind of a wishy-washy, válgame, I had a long day.
Reputation.
Reputation, thank you very much. The word was over there. But we should give them the opportunity, you know. I don't know, can you put them in a 3-month contract or Or just these projects and see how they do?
Well, what we can do, I mean, if you all wanna do it now, we would go out, right, because we've gotten direction, and just solicit the 3 quotes from 3 different, come back and say, these are the 3 quotes, who would you wanna select?
And I think I'll, Madam Mayor, if I may.
Mr. Perez?
I'll go ahead and amend my motion to allow staff to seek 3, either request for proposals or request for qualifications, whatever is more appropriate, for a lobbying firm to see what services they can provide.
So because they're professional services, we don't have to actually get quotes, but I'll try the 3 different ones, and then give me like a threshold of what amount of funding are we wanting to allocate for this, because they're not cheap.
Well, I think we're putting the cart before the horse. I think we need to find out how much they'll be.
How much were they
so
quoting
we can
us?
so we
Okay.
can allocate.
And do we wanna put out for 3 months of service?
Whatever will cover this legislative.
Correct,
term.
it ends May 27th,
So
2019.
June 1st.
Mr. Rodriguez?
I'm all with you. I just want to add, Jim, can I say this? Because we're at the talk of lobbyists and stuff. You know, we also should go, because we can talk to our representatives. You know, it's easier when everybody's there, because they will direct you. This is the department, go knock at 507. Go to this one because you can go to 702. You know, those are the places. I'm just saying that we don't do that, but it's time. It's time, because we don't have the representation. There are departments out there where when Joe Pickett was there, I would talk to him and he would tell me the same thing. You need to take the time, especially, and he told me this, especially the smaller municipalities should take the time to go, because they will help you than a big city.
Well, as an example, we just went to this El Paso Days, which I recommend next year, council should be there at the table. Just because there was a lot of representation and you meet with different state legislators, but there are different, entities have their lobbying group there to talk to these, you know, at the head of the table and let them know what their interest. I mean, you have TxDOT's, you know, the big developers having their lobbyists there to change policy, to make it easier for them to.
And I'm sorry.
Ms. Villalobos?
And I think that would help tremendously with the economic development that we're trying to finally get rolling in this city. And, you know, you need to know who's who and what's what. So, yes.
We have a speaker. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Sisters?
Miriam Cruz?
I have a question. This agenda item called to finalize contract, and so I'm just wondering if there was already a amount that this advocacy firm was already asking for, and if that can be disclosed. And I also would like to throw out an idea. Again, I thank Mr. Bettis for his points. But just like the young lady, oh, she left. The young lady who's a grant writer, considering an in-house, independent, or just our own City of Socorro lobbyist or promoter or advocate, is something to think about, because these firms do represent other municipalities or other cities or other business interests. Maybe they don't always align with what our city would want to happen, and so sometimes maybe they get torn between what they should advocate, what they should support, and what they should not, based on the fact that they're contracted by multiple individual entities. So I would just like to throw that out there. Thank you.
Rene Rodriguez?
Aye.
Cesar Nevares?
Yes.
Ralph Duran?
Yes.
Victor Perez?
Aye.
And Ivan Colombia Lopez.
Can there be an individual lobbyist?
Yes, I mean, any residents, we need to have those people that have those connections.
think about in the future. Thank you. Yes.
Item number 20, discussion and action to approve proposed development agreement for Vista Bonita Estates.
Mayor, I have I have not heard back from the developer. If there are citizens present who wish to discuss it, you can still do that, but my request would be to simply postpone this to the next meeting.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Jim, I have a question. Isn't this contingent if we come into an agreement on the plat?
The plat approval is contingent on the agreement, yes.
Okay, so then what's the holdup if they don't come to the table? We should just walk away.
Before we do this, you might want to get a motion first.
Oh, make a motion to postpone
Till the next meeting.
to the next meeting.
Second.
To answer you're asking what happens if
Mhm.
there's no agreement? There's no final plat approval.
Okay.
I mean, it's one, it is contingent on the finalization and execution of the agreement.
Okay. So then,
Now, to answer your other question, what's the holdup? I don't know. And to be fair, I don't mean to throw stones. I think your administration has had about all it can take of the negotiations with the developer. We've gone back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And my last round, my instructions from admin were, look, tell the developer, those are the terms. That's it. And we're waiting for them to sign it. So we're waiting.
so Mayor, can I
Mr. Rodriguez?
follow up? So then could I just make a motion to say, hey, you got about maybe till Wednesday of next week to find a resolution. If not, just bring it to council and
We can call it
certainly
the
can.
Rodriguez ultimatum.
Yeah, I mean, you can. I think your administration effectively has already done that. And my,
well, just to make it so that we can understand that that's it.
Okay, so basically what's happened is that we've reached a point where administratively, that's all we can impose. Right, so they're coming back, and we can't just agree on anything anymore, so it's like, let's take it to council, and let them give us direction, how, because we're not the policymakers. Basically, with the ordinances that we have, everything that we have in place, they're meeting everything that we have imposed or asked for. But at this point, we can't reach, I know the residents have other concerns that Mr. President wants to address with council. But for us, we're just waiting on the developer to come back and say, and then bring it to council and say, you know what, this agreement's gonna work, or this agreement's not gonna work, and we move on.
Okay, then I could just change my motion and just say, Jim. So that I can just change my motion and say, next Wednesday, if there's no agreement, then just walk away?
I mean, you could. That would I'm a little hesitant to. That makes me a little uncomfortable.
Okay.
Because it's a plat and it's a subdivision and it's a fairly big item. My intent is to carry out the administration's instruction, tell them those are the terms. And I mean, council could approve this today and we could say, leave it hanging out until the developer. Those are the terms council approved, you gotta sign it. I don't like that. I prefer for the city to have the last word. I want everything signed and finalized and ready, and then I take it to the city and the city gets to say yes or the city gets to say no. I think that's my preferred process. And if the version that we have out there now is the final one as far as your administration is concerned, if my intent is to communicate to the developer, look, if you have any further proposed changes, we're done. You need to come talk to council. You need to come to a city council meeting because we've had enough of this.
So then I'll just leave my motion as is, you guys work it
That'd be
out. That's it.
Request, yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Perez?
It seems like, I don't know, that if we have done everything, and we have already provided them what our conditions are, correct? These are our non-negotiable conditions. Are they kind of just waiting us out in terms of us leaving council and then them coming back?
I don't get that sense, and just the economics of land development don't lend itself to that time.
Okay.
Costs money, and there's always financing involved, and a delay of months is fairly expensive, and not generally something developers don't look for.
Because I think that in terms of the conditions, they're not that big to where that they wouldn't agree to them.
I had the exactly the same impression, and I'm kind of puzzled.
And it seems to me like either, and I think it's almost a show of, well, we're gonna do it because we're gonna do it they wanna have the last word, it seems like, and dictate to us how they're going to do things.
And which goes back to my earlier point, I mean, that's just not how I do things. Look, everything's gonna be done, all the other private parties are gonna sign off on it, and then I'll take it to my elected body, and that elected body will decide whether it's approved or not.
Okay, thank you.
Right, so I guess, let me just, for clarification, is that there were some exactions, as we would say in the business, imposed on the city. So for example, the development of Anderson Road. So as it stands right now is that we would have to negotiate a right-of-way acquisition with the abutting neighbor. We formally haven't heard through official communication from the city with that owner if he or she is interested. But nonetheless is that the right-of-way acquisition can prolong the entire development. And for us to secure the capital that we would need to make that roadway happen is beyond 5 years in my professional experience. So that's one of the elements there. The other component is that we've had discussions with the members of the public with the rock wall and things of that nature in terms of the height of it, which we're going to ask for a 6-foot rock wall. Another exaction that was part of the original one, or the original request with the plat. The other component is the access. So mainly what triggers all this conversation is the access to existing city infrastructure. So one of the conversations that we have with our attorney is that if it's capable for the city to deny the request simply because of inadequate ordinances that we have. But here, because of the establishment of existing facilities, the only other opportunity would be to have Anderson Road. But again, we really can't afford to build Anderson Road right now. And above that, it would also require access management with TxDOT.
Plus, you're saying that Anderson Road through the MPO, it's not even on the books. It's not something that we have either placed as a future expansion, so it might never happen. It doesn't have regional significance. I don't think the city's looking to annex in that area. We're looking more at I-10 if we ever do annex.
Right, and just to follow on the city manager comments, it is true is that at best this would be a collector, which would not qualify for federal or state funding under the rules. More importantly is that I think I've also expressed that if we do have the interest of having annexation, it would be for a purpose that would be commercial or some type of industry that brings economic development to the city. And I'll just reiterate again is that in my professional experience is that when we have subdivisions, I mean, it does provide some type of incentive with taxes, but understand that after a certain point, that plateaus, and then the maintenance becomes part of the problem of the city to cure.
So what's the motion again? I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion to postpone to the following meeting.
Mayor, we have two speakers, Miriam Cruz. Fernie Salcido.
Thank you, Mr. Medina. I couldn't have said it any better. You can see the issues at hand and the conflicts that we're facing. It's something that I don't believe that it's in the best benefit of the city in the long term. The extension of the Anderson Road, the wording on this agreement, development agreement, where it states that the city of Socorro is responsible for maintaining that road. The monies allocated for that road of $255,000 plus is not adequate for a road of that size. Not to mention, they never mentioned that bridge where they have to cross the lateral, Salitral lateral. I made some calls just this afternoon. They haven't heard from Scove. Is that an added cost that the city is going to pick up to accommodate this development? I think Mr. Medina did hit the nail on the head earlier. I've got a whole list of stuff that I was gonna touch upon. I don't see any need in doing that, with the proposal of postponing it at this time, so I won't take any further time. I would like to add, Mr. Rodriguez, on,
Mr. Salcido, your time is up.
Make a motion to extend, to suspend.
Motion to suspend the rules.
thank you. No, I would just like to add, Mr. Rodriguez,
Second.
Rene Rodriguez.
Aye.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Ralph Duran.
Yes.
Victor Pérez.
Aye.
And Ivan Colo Villalobos. Absent.
thank you. No, Mr. Rodriguez, getting back to you. I would just like to, on my defense, I would like to apologize and just make note that I did not have the backup that you had. So I had signed up, because going back from memory, as to the approval of the subdivision that we were looking at. And I had some concerns with the PI and in and out and stuff. Now, the gentleman mentioned that they would like to extend this area here. And I think that we should try to acquire that additional easement from this point to this point as well, for future roadway width. And if get them to, whereas we don't have to go in there and claim eminent domain.
I need to at least advise council if we're discussing something other than 20.
No, I was just trying to clarify my.
Oh, okay, no.
Yes, sir, I was just doing an apology. That's all I was trying to do. I did not have the backup, and I said what I did. Thank you very much.
Rene Rodriguez.
Aye.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Ralph Duran.
Yes.
Victor Pérez.
Aye.
And Ivan Colo Villalobos is absent.
Item number 21, discussion and action to approve Representative at Large Rene Rodriguez and any other council member interested to travel for TML Elected Official Conference from February 28, 2019 through February 29, 2019 in San Marcos, Texas.
I'll make my motion to approve.
Do you have a second?
Second for discussion. No, we haven't.
No, it's open, so they can.
Mr. Rodriguez?
The reason why, it goes back to what we were talking about on the other items. It's lobbying and all that, so it's, no. On the backup here, it says about what's going on in Austin and legislation and stuff like that. So therefore, it is sort of kind of an arm extension. And that's what I'm saying. They're gonna show you, stuff that's going on that we need to be aware, so forth and so forth. It's in the backup. You guys can read it
What it says, speakers who will lift and inspire.
and inspire you, and also and tell you about what's going on with the legislation as well. And it's very important. Like I said, we need to be more active with our legislatures. Oh, no, I'm just saying.
Mr. Arte?
And if council is inclined to approve it, we should probably clarify that I doubt very seriously that any part of the seminar will be held on February 29th.
Yes, and I scratched it out. I scratched it out right there.
Just saying.
Because I was gonna say that's a typo, because there's no 29 until maybe 2 years from now.
So it's just a one-day thing?
It's, no, it's, March 1st.
Oh.
February 27 to March 1st.
Yes, yes, it's a typo.
And
Ms. Villalobos?
so this would be, we would drive down there, if those that wanted to go?
Yeah, we could drive, or we could, whatever.
Well, I'm just saying because there's no airport in San Marcos, right? There is no airport.
Well, you have to go into
Austin or San Antonio?
no, it's Austin or San Antonio. It's cheaper to go to, well, it depends.
You just want to go for the outlets.
To the what?
The outlets.
No,
I'm kidding.
no.
Who's going?
Know anybody?
Well,
Or you guys
wait,
let her know,
Madam Mayor.
like we have
Mr.
done
Perez?
before?
Okay, so do we need to make, does the amendment to the budget need to be done before we take action on this? No?
We can actually come back and you'll go in the red. You're already in the red.
See,
So
that's.
you're going in the red a little bit more. And then when we do the budget amendment, we'll see where we can get funding from other departments like salary savings and just move money around.
And in terms of that, in terms of accommodating for this trip, I think that we need to have a proposed budget amendment presented to council as soon as possible.
Yes, and that's something that me and Mr. President are
Yeah.
working on.
Okay.
It's just we have the auditors here, so.
Yeah. Okay.
A little stressful.
So it's gonna be Mr. Rodriguez, anybody else?
Can we let you know later? Because I have to check my calendar. I may be
We've
going to
done
Boston.
that, right?
Yeah,
we've
I'll just
done
let
that,
you know later.
So we can just,
I may have to go to Boston.
in case.
Take precedent.
Okay.
Rene Rodriguez?
Aye.
Cesar Nevares?
Yes.
Ralph Duran?
Yes.
Victor Perez?
Aye.
And Ivan Colombia Lopez. Yes.
Item number 22, discussion and action to approve Representative at Large Rene Rodriguez and any other council member interested to travel for TML Leadership Academy Course 1 from April 5th, 2019 through April 5th, 2019, and Course 2 from May 22nd, 2019 through May 24th, 2019 in Georgetown, Texas.
April 5th to April 5th?
That's what it says.
April 3rd to the 5th. At the bottom it says April
I
3rd to the 5th.
also
April 3rd to the 5th.
scratch that out. I've been hectic. It's been ethics. They show you about ethics. They show you about laws. They show you about all that stuff. So once again, it just keeps us in check. What we do, don't, stuff like that. It'll make us a better, council member. Mayor, if you want to go too, makes you a better mayor. So it makes us all better. And these are things that we have to continue because as laws change and stuff like that, we're more aware of what the do's and don'ts.
Are they going to lift and inspire us with this one
Yes,
too? Okay.
as well,
Good.
as well.
Just had to make sure.
The motion.
Make a motion to approve.
to approve.
Seconded by
Me.
Rene Rodriguez?
Aye.
Cesar Nevares?
Yes.
Ralph Duran?
Yes.
Victor Perez?
Aye.
And Ivan Colombia Lopez.
Yes.
Do we have anything in executive session? Do we have a motion to delete items 23, 24, and 25?
Make a motion to delete.
Second.
Rene Rodriguez?
Aye.
Cesar Nevares?
Yes.
Ralph Duran?
Yes.
Victor Perez?
Aye.
Ivan Colombia Lopez?
Yes.
Motion to adjourn?
Second. Second.
Rene Rodriguez?
Aye.
Cesar Nevares?
Yes.
Ralph Duran?
Yes.
Victor Perez?
Aye.
And Ivan Colombia Lopez.
7:38, meeting adjourned.
The motion passed anyways. Yeah, right? On another